Yep, it is recording, and I don't know if the connection's going to hold because the creating the Skype link actually was quite slow, and that's usually an indicator that it's going to be a bit laggy. But we'll just make it a brief news one, I guess, and yeah, see
Yeah.
what see what we can come up with.
Yeah, it sounds great for now. Good evening, good day, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in, ladies and gentlemen. We're back for episode, I'm going to guess 20? Is it
I think
episode
it's
20?
20. Yeah, I think it is actually something like that.
So, yeah, we've been busy. Things have happened as always. The King of England has fallen ill.
No, no.
Potentially
God.
an opportune time. Um, yeah, amongst other things, the the killers of Brianna Gay have also been in the papers recently.
About what?
And
Oh,
Brianna
no,
Gay, the transgender that was murdered,
I
by the
thought you.
kids.
Yeah, but I thought you meant the band, the Killers, with what's his name.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, they probably have killed a few gays in their time. Probably the kids probably killed a few babies too. I mean, the killers.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of baby killers, do you remember the Welsh musician who he literally raped a baby? Do you remember that? The Welsh rock star. He was actually quite famous in that underground kind of heavy rock, scream metal, something like that. I don't know the exact terminology. I'm not like a super musician.
Uh, how long ago was
But
this?
this is not long ago. He literally raped a baby. He was probably the most famous musician to do something that crazy.
Oh, this rings a
Yeah,
bell.
yeah,
This rings a bell.
yeah. He's super famous. And he admitted to it as well. He was like, "Yeah, I just raped a baby, like as you do on a Friday night." Like, what a complete. Like, how does that even work from a biological, like, from a, like, how does that happen? Like, how can you, unless he's got a really small penis? I don't know how you can rape a baby. But yeah, either way,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's
he was
just
psychotic. Though. The guy had like a super good-looking girlfriend as well. I don't understand.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
people
I
can.
mean, they're all. I mean, most of them are psychos that do
Yeah,
that. There is, or severely cognitively impaired, because you do get these people almost with like learning disabilities, like like literally that you get like these like strange little kind of autistic people that it's like and it's almost like they're 6 years old themselves. They might have like a liking towards children because they are like children. But let's not but let's not create any kind of basis for maps or minor attracted persons, because that's something completely different.
do you think
Yeah,
so? Because
they
I,
don't
yeah,
exist. They don't exist as far as I'm concerned.
no, no, yeah,
It's
no, absolutely. Like, am I attracted
you're a
to pedophiles?
paedophile, you're a predator.
I mean,
But
it's the same mentality that guides people towards like being serial killers or pedophiles. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just the environment. There's something in there that makes them do psychotic things. It just by chance happens that one is going to do something to a kid, one is going to go and, I don't know, rape a horse, one's going to smash a dolphin around the head with a mallet. Not to humorize, but you know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
like it's kind of an absolute that whatever condition is there, something's going to happen from it, and it's just depends on how they've been conditioned, like their environment, because they're all obviously psychopaths.
yeah, how they're conditioned and how they are like. Do you know about the Libby? I think is it Libby? There was this Libby Squire. I don't even know about this case, Libby Squire, and that kid in Scotland who, just like murdered her basically.
Wait, the kid murdered her?
Yeah, no. He's a kid, and he murdered like this little, toddler. She was like 4 years old. He was like
That's like
16.
the most famous one.
Popular kid, you know, normalish, you know, from a bit of like a rough background, but you know, like a normal popular kid, didn't struggle at school, reasonably intelligent. Murdered this, abducted her from her bedroom, led her somewhere to like the beach, violently raped this tiny little.
Wait, this was a woman.
No. This was a toddler called Libby Squad. This is the name of the toddler, Libby Squad. And the guy is called something Campbell. I think his name's Adam Campbell or something. Or Paul Campbell. I can't remember his name. Tony Campbell. I'm pretty sure his surname was Campbell anyway. It was like this is in Scotland. And this was fairly recently. This is fairly recently as well, like in the past few years. Yeah.
So that's what you sent me with respect to the guy that you said looks like me.
No, that was a different guy. The one that
family, they murdered the girlfriend's family in the house, and the girlfriend was just like laughing as they just like killed the entire family.
Oh yeah, that was one that looked like you.
But, like 3 days.
It's like the things that people do, and it's like that kid couldn't blame his upbringing on that act. Like, you know,
no, but upbringings, and they had siblings as well. Well, she had like 3 siblings, and like the house was just a normal household, and then one of the kids just becomes a complete psychopath.
Exactly.
But I think they're really susceptible, like, to these kinds of things. Like, I've always thought, like, my cousins, so they're really strange. So my aunt is my mum's sister, and they all went to the same schools. They were really well educated, and we all went to the same schools. So myself and my cousins speak like they're from the gutter. Not to sound rude, but I've always been interested in the psychology of why that is. And they were so weak in the sense that they were so obsessed with popularity at school that they had to completely change who they were as people to try and fit in with certain groups of people, to the point where they themselves ironically became the minority in the school, coming from an educated background, and they actually sound like they're from Southend in London and they shank people up with knives on the weekend. That's what they actually sound like, but their parents are like super well educated, so it doesn't make any sense at all. Like how people's brains, how come people can be just like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously it's like a microcosm of like the discussion whereby if you take it to the extreme, we're looking at psychopaths grow up in these normal households and they end up just like chopping a kid up for no reason, no apparent reason, and then they're not even deemed insane, which is the debate we've had before. Like, how can you not deem someone like that insane? I've always found it fascinating how, you know, you get serial killers and none of them are deemed insane.
Yeah,
none of them are.
So you've got different
of them aren't, and it's like you've got to be insane to do that, surely. So surely they should all be insane. Like every criminal after a point should be deemed insane, because no sane person would do that.
So insanity is when you've got some kind of like psychosis or mania, whereas there are other things that are like personality disorders. So antisocial personality disorder, for example, is something that, you know, like people have like narcissistic personality disorder, dissociative personality disorder, and like these different things that might allow people to do things where they have no empathy. Essentially, they're evil. Essentially, they're wired in an evil way, and they're aware of this, and there's a thought process behind it. Whereas there are people who act out of almost impulse, or like, for instance, somebody that's got, you know, a category C schizophrenic, for example, somebody with audio and visual hallucinations. It's like that's somebody who's going to be, you know, held, you know, less culpable, because literally, you know, seeing somebody with, they're seeing somebody is holding a knife when they're not holding a knife, for example, and then they, you know, attack that person. They think that everybody's, you know, out to get them. The people that have like temporary insanity when they take drugs like magic mushrooms have a really bad trip. A very famous case of that in Canada, where this guy, perfectly, you know, normal as far as anybody knew, took mushrooms once for the first time, stuck a knife through his stepmom's head and murdered his father as well. Like, you know, stabbed them both to death. And yeah, it came to he ended up, you know, getting done for, you know, murder. But all of his family literally gathered around and they pressed for his innocence, asked for him to be released because they knew that this was, you know, out of character. This isn't something that he would have done normally. So there's many different types of, you know, psychosis. It could be drug induced, it can be hereditary, it can be due to brain damage. People's personalities change after they suffer brain trauma. There's CTE and all of these different things that can make yeah, you know, people less culpable for crimes or behavior. In the case of that
Yeah, but
of that guy, the reason why I'd say he wasn't insane is never showed. And when I say, you know, we could say that, yeah, crazy, sick, but what was classed as clinically insane or insanity is that it was premeditated. He
that doesn't mean
did
anything.
things to evade capture, never admitted it, even though, like, you know, the evidence was there. And like, just the level of kind of like manipulation, and like, I would agree that anybody who does that is an absolute sicko and is nuts, but they could never use the insanity plea because that takes away responsibility. Because, oh yeah, I'm insane, I have these impulses to do these things, but it wasn't an impulse if it's planned and premeditated. The metric used to measure insanity, whereas it might not be perfect because nothing is, I think it's a very good one and a useful one, and one of the few things, yeah, that with like the current system that I agree with.
There's 4 points here that will be interesting. Actually, the first one we were supposed to discuss on this episode, which was actually inherited memory, so past life regression. And actually, this ties into that because the idea that people can just lead a seemingly normal life and then all of a sudden just put a knife through their grandparents' heads out of nowhere and not be deemed insane. This is the problem I have. You stated that people that are deemed insane have clinical conditions like psychosis, right? But
Yeah,
then
so,
if
so
we
that was
follow
drug
this,
induced. That example was drug
there's a problem
induced.
with
Yeah.
this. If we take like a basic example, which would be 100 years ago, people would have thought it would be never feasible to get to the moon. Though obviously I don't believe in the moon landings; it's all bullshit.
Yeah,
Let's just
because
go.
you can't get to the moon exactly. That
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
right. They were smarter back then.
But there are things that obviously we know there's an origin. There's an origin of why we're all here, right? So there's an origin to the universe, but we can't pinpoint how.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So the laws of logic would discern that when somebody who is working a 9 to 5 job and has a load of friends and everything in their life is seemingly normal, then on a Tuesday they walk into a hospital and chop the limbs off 5 people, and they're not deemed insane. They're just put in the electric chair and killed off as a murderer. They're not one with any condition. It doesn't mean to say they don't have a condition. It just means to say that that condition hasn't been pinpointed or discovered yet. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to medical conditions. So it just seems really kind of oxymoronic for people to be
Yeah.
prosecuted
So
and
in
detained
response, okay, go on, go on.
sentences. Yeah, well, and then there's an example recently, the one where the father, had an argument with his 3 sons. He lined his 3 sons up against the wall. He shot them all in the head. Then he just called the police and said, "Yeah, I just killed my 3 sons. I'm just waiting here." And he was just lying on the ground waiting for the police. The thing about this, which shows its insanity, is that I feel like, and premeditation has nothing to do with it as well, which actually there was supposedly a bit of a premeditation where he'd recorded ideas of doing this before. But it doesn't make any sense. Like, if I think about rubbing shit in my face for 3 days, and on the third day I rub shit in my face, that's premeditated. I was thinking about it for 3 days and I did it. But obviously, it's an act of insanity. It's not normal. So,
Yeah.
just because plotting a murder for weeks, months, years doesn't mean that they're not insane. But yeah, returning to
But
linking into regression, like there's a possibility that inherited memory is the origin of some of these cases. If we are to go into that kind of that pit, that endless spiral. Or we can do that for episode 21.
Sickness and insanity. Very interesting.
This goes
so
all.
the couple, the first example that you gave, and this is where like discernment comes into it. Let's just say that normal person that went into the hospital and did you say chopped off other people's arms or their own arms?
No, that was just an example. It's
But
probably.
let's just say they chopped off other people's arms. They were completely normal up until that point. And then they went, they're like, yeah, like I mean, I think there's a level of because some people are like, we can call it insanity, but like some people, like evil exists, and like some people can choose to do bad things. Like it exists. Like people can consciously choose to do bad things.
No, but this is the debate that we had last week about what discerns good and evil, because it's all self-interest. Every single act is a self-interested act. And going back to the analogy without going into this pit of doom, the primary school teacher teaches because he or she wants to teach. The serial killer kills because he or she wants to kill. They're both equally self-interested acts, but society determines one is good and one is bad. And different societies determine that certain things that are good in one society are bad in the next. So the thing is, it's not a universal rule. It's not a universal. So, I mean, and also the people that do chop people's heads off and rape babies and do all this stuff, basically everyone in Hollywood is one such example. That is their culture. For them, that's fine. And they like doing that. So what is universal good? I mean, we haven't had,
everybody knows.
No one's been asked and no one's been put in the same situations. If we put like 7 billion people in the exact same, let's say, PTSD inducing situation to see how they would act, I reckon a lot of people would do sick things. I reckon even the majority of people would do them, actually.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll disagree because we have examples of that.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah. Then you would agree.
So we have like, countries like, I don't know, Mexico or Jamaica and these places where there's lots of poverty, but it's like the majority of people are like still just do the right, even though they live in like cartel land, like not everybody wants to be like the minority of people want to be involved in that, even though they live a life of abject poverty. They would rather live.
I completely disagree, and it's a contradiction, isn't it? Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So it's like everywhere, like you're looking like these impoverished places. It's still the minority of people that are like absolutely, because human beings are resilient, and I think we have a natural sense, and like this is where I'm going to go maybe like a little bit let's just say spiritual, but there's something like innate, there's something within us that we have like some kind of feeling of a sense of what to do and what not to do. And I know that you might argue that it's social contracts, but I think this is innate in some people. Like you see it like very early in like a human being's development when they're like 1 and 2 years old. Like this innate sense of what's
but innate discerns that it's an absolute intrinsic inbuilt.
Yeah. So a natural kind of knows for what's right and wrong. Yeah, absolutely.
No, but that makes sense, because if it's innate to humans and humans are naturally good, then there wouldn't be the evil that you just suggested within some people. It wouldn't be innate then. It has to be conditioned.
I'll tell you why it's innate, because even the people that do evil know that it's evil. That's why they hide it. They're not fucking proud of it. None of them.
Do you think so?
Right, I'll tell you, this is the ultimate as to why I think so. So you just mentioned the rulers of the world. So like the rulers of the world are wicked people, right? Because they do wickedness because wicked is a spectrum, right? But they do baby eating, child sacrifice, mass wars, bloodshed, feed us chemicals, enslave us, etc. Right? That's an absolute fact, right?
Yeah.
Yet these people, because they know it goes against the very intrinsic human social principle, is the reason why they have to do it in a stealthy manner, because people, wouldn't have it. They have to subliminally condition people, brainwash them, hypnotize them through the media and Hollywood in order to, in order to keep them in power, keep them dumbed down, because they have to make them think that these bad things are somehow good, even though everyone knows that it's not right. Everyone knows in their head that fucking it's that most people like
they might be doing it because they don't want the fucking the waiting list to be too long. If you know what I mean, like it keeps it exclusive. It maintains their authority. If you open up the doors to a lot of people, if a nightclub let everyone in, no one would want to go to the nightclub. The fact that people want to go to certain businesses is because they're exclusive, and that exclusivity commands authority. If you went to a place where you had to queue for fucking 2 hours because it's beastly inside, like Berkine or Kit Kat Club, if you could just get let straight in, it would lose its authenticity. It would lose its demands. Public would find an alternative kind of underground place to kind of jive off in, and it could really be that. And I don't think, if we look at 2019 and people's submission to evil, with the vaccines as one such example, people's just weakness and willingness to just go along with the status quo, I think it's primer in recent history, discerning like how people are willing to do absolutely anything to stay alive, essentially. Social survival. And the reason a lot of people don't kill and stuff in, say, Jamaica or Haiti, it's always a minority of people that work for the cartels and kill and murder and invoke kind of crime, is just because they don't have the capacity yet to do it. But if they were given the opportunity to do it, I think a lot of people would. I think a lot of people would, if they were handed a fucking check or cash, $2 million, and you had to fucking punch a little baby in the face or drop kick someone off a fucking roof. I think most people would do that. I actually do. I
think a lot of people would do it, but I still think it would be the minority of people, like maybe, I don't know, 10% at best.
Okay, well, here's
another
to
say that would go pretty in lots of parts of the world. I think maybe there are some places that have a blend of poverty and a fucking horrendous culture where that might be a bit higher. It might go up to like 20%, but yeah, I think the mean average globally would probably be around 10% of people would like do that. And in some places it will be even lower. Like places that are just like, a bit more pure, for lack of a better term. I think that would be even lower.
That's a great analogy on the go, right? And let's say that the reason more people don't do it is because of fear. And what you said earlier about, you think that a lot of the people that commit evil know it's evil and they hide it because they don't want the social repercussions, because most people are good, kind of bobbing at their heels. Well, I reckon those that often don't opt to do things that benefit them want to do it, but it's just they're too weak to do it, if you know what I mean. They feel like if they did it, they would get caught and it would be worse off for them. It's a judgment, which isn't always correct. And that's why a lot of people end up in positions where they can't sustain themselves because they don't have the confidence to perhaps take that leap or that jump. But here's a good analogy, right? So let's say you take a kind of monoculture and within that, a microcosm, like a village or something in a rural area where everyone knows each other, right? And okay, so £10 million in cash to kill someone, £10 million in cash to kill someone from the community might warrant less attention. But let's say you brought in a guy from fucking nowhere else in the world. Nowhere within their cultural sphere, someone from another part of the world that had no connection, affiliation. The guy has, let's say he's super poor, he's homeless, he has no one knows who he is, and then you offer people £10 million to kill him. I reckon a lot of people would. I reckon a lot of people would. I reckon the reason they don't do it when it's someone from their own culture is because they know that there might be repercussions for their actions, and that's why there might be some hesitation if you were to give, let's say, the neighbour as a victim. But if you said, "I'll go kill a random homeless guy," and nothing's going to happen, I fucking bet you most people would. I reckon like 70-80% of people would kill that person, and that's what's scary. And I actually think £10 million cash, I reckon they would 100%.
It's funny you say that, because in countries like Jamaica and Mexico, which are massive holiday destinations that are just massively impoverished as well in certain ways, you actually and for that reason, you actually get in trouble more for killing a foreigner than killing one of your own. It's like killing one of your own is like, as in a Jamaican national or a Mexican national or a fellow slummy, would be, yeah.
Someone
I
loses
mean,
out.
literally, you'd be lucky if the police come. Their bodies lay on roads for like fucking hours in those places.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that's not
So,
because they're as such. If it wasn't an international tourist economy and it was a domestic tourist economy, it would be the same principle. Like the rich would get more attention. It's just that if a foreigner gets killed, the reason it gets attention is because someone's losing money. The guy that runs the fucking $20 million resort doesn't want Jamaica being branded as a dangerous place because
absolutely,
so it's not because they're foreign as such. It's just the money aspect. That's all it is. Again, it's all because someone's losing cash.
I mean, I'm just talking about, in terms of what the police, would do. Like people know that, killing a foreigner in those places could be one. They might get longer time. The repercussions might be more severe.
Exactly.
The
That's
investigation will be better. Yeah, and these sorts of
that just
things.
proves the point. So if there was a homeless guy on the street and you went up to people and you said, okay, so here's $10 million in cash, go kill the homeless guy. You've got to think like, is the reason why people kill or don't kill, it's all self-interest in my opinion.
I would say that people
like there is no for murdering this guy. I think people don't kill, and I actually believe this. People don't kill because there's repercussions for killing, because you can go to jail, you can get killed yourself, vigilantism, all these acts. Louis C.K. once said, if we didn't have prisons and we didn't have laws to restrict people from committing crimes, we'd have a lot more fucking crime, and we absolutely would.
Right.
If there was no sentence or you'd have people walking. And this is evidence you can steal anything under $1,000 now and you don't get arrested. So people just walk into supermarkets with a trolley and they steal shit because you're allowed to steal. But when there was a law preventing people from stealing, period, irrespective of the amount, there was a lot less stealing. And if you had that for killing, there would be a lot less killing, a lot more killing, man, a lot more killing. And there probably is actually.
Right.
Now.
So, off the top of my head, I can think of many examples of, like, for instance, let's just talk about Amazon tribes, for example. Like, no police, no infrastructure. It's like, obviously, people, there's social order, but, there aren't prisons. Some people just know how to behave. Some people
they're all
behave.
Everywhere in the world has police. Even if you don't have a badge that says police, there's always someone bossing the town. You take a favela cartel town somewhere, let's say Rio, like somewhere really dangerous in Rio. There's no police, but there are people that are in charge.
I mean, my point is, you get deviant. Like, deviance is a natural human variant, and it just exists everywhere. But I think that, there are places where, there are low levels of it, and with no infrastructure, with extremely low levels of deviance, without that infrastructure. So it's cultural. There's so many factors that create these crimes, and I think a lot of it's cultural. I also think there are a lot of people who, in fact, most people, you couldn't pay to kill anybody because, people, value. It's just like a empathetic thing. People know, like, that they don't want this. It's empathy. It's like it's something within us. We're like social beings. We generally like each other. Yeah.
No, I completely disagree. You dug yourself a massive hole. I'm going to slap you.
No, definitely not. We're social beings, and that's why altruism's a real thing.
Okay, COVID-19 vaccinations. Right, people wanting non-vaccinated people to be segregated and separated and have their rights stripped from them for not being, for not conforming to the status quo's agenda. What about that? Very empathetic.
Those people are fucking nuts. That they're stupid. They're stupid and they're brainwashed.
Yeah, most people are. That's what I said. They're not
people.
Not empathetic.
Right. Okay.
You said most people are empathetic. That's a problem. Them not being.
I mean, let's just say, but once again, we don't have any statistics on how many people actually think like that. I'd like to think that was like 1 or 2%. They put a
It was way. I can give you a metric, a video reference for that. Hello.
Yep, I'm here.
Hello.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello. We got
I
cut
can
out.
hear you.
There's a video, a guy, I think we discussed it before. And there's this is a legit channel as well. This isn't, he might be a bit shitty, but he's not super shitty. But he goes to Venice Beach and he's got a clipboard and he asks people,
Right.
do you think it's acceptable to take unvaccinated people and take all their money away, put them in prison, take their kids away, all the questions you'd expect? And most people on one of the most liberal beaches in the United States, one of the most liberal areas, most people said yes, they'd be willing to take all of those things away from people. And actually,
Okay.
this actually happened in Canada. People, fathers especially, were having their kids taken away from them if they, their visitation rights, if they oppose the COVID mandate and the COVID restrictions, they were deemed insane.
Now go and ask that question in Somalia, and you probably find that 99% of people say no. Or go and ask it in, I don't know, not Venice Beach. Ask it on a council estate in Liverpool, and you're going to find that most people are going to say no. So they've literally gone to Libtard Central, like you said, and asked a load of people. And then even then, is the video edited? How many people did he ask? Was he picking people who he thought maybe are probably going to say yes? There's lots of
people in society are completely, if not the majority, for these kinds of things. 100%. And also your Somalia example, I would argue against that. So Somalia, during that whole 2019 period, is just not on the bucket list for the status quo. A lot of African countries actually weren't touched just because they don't have a global effect.
So
yeah, they don't have a global effect. It's all marketing. So no, but they went for economically prosperous nations because it markets itself, right? If you target the US, so many people are led by a US narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they target all the places first. But if we were to give Somalia, the same kind of restrictions as those which are imposed in, say, France or the UK or the US, I think a lot of people would turn, mate. I think the idea that just because someone's from Africa and there's perhaps more resilient.
It's because of the culture. It's not because just because they're from Africa. It's a country of defiance. They're fucking civil wars and shit. Like they're used to saying no to the government. Like rebels will go and fucking shoot missiles at the government in those places. Yeah.
I think it's a culture of defiance. I think if you took people's jobs away and you took people's livelihoods away, the ability to feed their families would do pretty much, which just self look after themselves, and it doesn't matter what other people are going to, how people are going to suffer. Most people are not empathetic. If you put people in the right environment, most people fuck other people over, sadly. That's a reality. And also, we can see that in countries like, in Somalia, people get their fucking hands chopped off for stealing. People like kill other people's wives with stones if they get cheated on. Like, pretty extreme stuff.
Yeah,
like the idea if we throw.
Listen, every country definitely has its problems. One could argue that it creates stronger family bonds if you stone cheaters. Oh God!
The Saudis could definitely argue for that.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, they're fucking their daughters and their sisters anyway. So does it lead to stronger family bonds if they're stoning their daughter, who's also their mother, and their brother's aunt, or something like that?
Listen,
incestuous.
Double standards are everywhere, and absolutely, it's like.
And also, if we go down that line,
yeah, it's a fact that in certain places there's a smaller gene pool, let's say. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. I don't know to what extent, but it's definitely a thing.
100%. How long has this podcast been so far?
35 minutes.
35 minutes.
It's been
Oh,
played. Shall
shall we?
we touch on Charlie before we go? Prince
Yeah, go on
stroke,
then. Yeah.
Prince stroke King Charles. Yeah, I just find that the timing of the announcement, interesting. As I would say, like, people that have been listening to us from episode 1 will know, like the timeline that we're looking at. And obviously a lot of things going on, this year, especially there's talk of conscription, lots of alien talk, lots of, leaked classified documents from the fucking CIA, because they're going to let us know, they're going to give us the truth. So there is potentially alien invasion pending. And when I say alien invasion, I mean, like, the government, unleashing their technology to create, their agenda to maybe for some kind of, like, one world army, one world government, one world currency, everyone stay at home, fucking hell, we're protecting you from the aliens, like perennial lockdowns and all this sorts of stuff. Maybe, hopefully not. But in a time when, things seem to be accelerating, Charlie seems to be on a bit of a demise. And yeah, it could be time to, his mum went the year before. And yeah, maybe he's going to go to be with her in a literal sense.
Yeah. Well, I think I sent you a video recently on lobsters, and I think
Yeah.
humans can live forever. I think it's probable. Scientifically, it's very easy to replace organs. If we look at some of the unhealthiest people, the original Rockefeller, he lived to 107 years old. Guy smoked and drank for 107 years. He had numerous heart transplants. I think he had several heart transplants in the end before the last one failed. He died. And this is assuming we believe that these people actually died. It is scientifically possible to keep any living creature alive, definitely. If you have the capital, you have the technology, which we do now, it's 100% possible. Lobsters can be frozen and thawed and brought back to life. Every single lobster in the world can be frozen, thawed, and brought back to life. And human beings, in theory, should have the exact same thing. All living creatures in the back, which is why so many influential characters were cryogenically frozen. But the whole Charlie thing, again, who knows if these people actually die off. Of course, he doesn't have cancer. It's just convenient that, and again, like you said, the information we're given, irrespective of whether it's a derivative of the CIA or if it's brought out by some controlled media outlet, it's probably all bollocks anyway. But what we do know, because they like to mock,
it's definitely all bollocks. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's all bollocks in the sense of,
in a sense of it's not what it's presented
but
as. Yeah.
yeah, but they are all banging kids, of course. I mean, that's part of the mockery. They have to tell us the truth. Freemasonry, order through chaos. How they justify their acts is the fact that they are truthful with everything they do. They just tell it and dress it up in a different fashion. So Prince Andrew was obviously fucking children, and it came out in the news because that was part of the game plan, part of the ritual. And it was also rumored that Prince Charles was on one of the Epstein lists as well, and that it was going to get leaked or something like that. So I find it very convenient that just as the kind of monarchy is getting slandered, which is of course all intentional anyway, because the route to globalism is the eradication of any bind that creates cultural kind of or creates any kind of monoculture, any sense of nationalism, or everything essentially has to be communized under their protocol. So that was a very important distraction. Just as we were talking about Prince Charles being involved with fucking children, all of a sudden he's got cancer, just conveniently, just the next day, oh, he's got cancer. When the story should be Prince Charles was banging 9-year-old girls, but now he's got cancer. So we're going to hear about that.
Exactly.
But yeah, we see it everywhere now. Like, I mean, it's all just a lie. It's all just a decoy. It's all just a farce. I mean, there was a news presenter on, I can't remember if it was MBS or CNN, but it can be looked up, and she said, after Epstein died, hey, we might actually be hearing from the man himself soon. She actually said that on national US.
Yeah, I saw that.
People aren't dead. Like, the idea that you give power to an individual, assuming any of this is true, who runs a sex trafficking industry for the most important, influential characters in the world, they don't kill people like that. He's one of them. The idea that these people get bumped off in a Barcelona jail, like John McAfee, Or sorry, which one was Barcelona? Was it John McAfee or was it Epstein?
No, John
I can't remember.
McAfee was in Belize.
Apparently, he died as well. Huh? So
No, John McAfee was in Barcelona. Yeah. I think that was in Barcelona.
Yeah. None of these people actually die. Like the idea that they actually die is ridiculous. Like none of them do. You know, they're all just out there partying indefinitely on the other side of the world, outside of the ice caps, because the world is obviously far more expansive than people believe it to be. And yeah, I mean that's the news. And the conscription thing's funny. I can't remember if we touched on it last week, but I think we might have done episode 19. But they came out and said, "Oh yeah, all British men are going to be, all British people will be, held for conscription to fight the Russian threat." They're like, "Oh, we're not going to do that." Actually, again, to keep society in perpetual fear, to keep everyone anxious. The possibility that tomorrow they're going to lose their husband or their wife. It's again all just jokes or mockery. The idea that there's somehow an alternative perspective within a singular one world government. The head of the military is just a joke, of course. None of actors, and I think we've said before, when you take atypical actors like Kevin Spacey or Mel Gibson or whomever that one sees in regular Hollywood movies, actually these are the B-rated actors. People that work in film are actually the lower actors. The real actors, the most successful actors, are seen to actually, undertaking a profession. They're in a serious role. All politicians are actors. None of them are.
Exactly.
So, Should we end at some point before the Skype dies and find out I haven't recorded any of it like last time?
Yep. Thank you,
no, I think it is.
Episode 20, another one down. In a few days, maybe we'll do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would the topic be? Regressive. What's it called? Regressive memory.
Past life regression. Past life regression.
Life regression.
We could do.
We should do something on that.
Mixed in with near-death experiences, maybe. Kind of like
near-death.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think it is quite fascinating because some of the stories that you hear, especially concerning children who say that they have like past life memories. Now, it's objective that a lot of these a lot of these are proven fake, together and concocted stories for monetary gain. So sell it to the media and after investigations a lot fake. But some of them aren't fake, and actually the effort it would require to undertake something like that. I mean, you've got to think to yourself, what kind of family? And a lot of these stories come from quite impoverished families in, say, India. India's a big place for these kinds of things because it has a big population.
And Russia.
Who knows? Russia, And Russia, a lot of the sources there. But, what kind of family wakes up one day and thinks, I know I'm going to manipulate my child to create these fictional stories about a past life for someone to want to do, especially if it's really uneducated people, let's say, out in the countryside in India. Why would they even think of that? Though that said, there is a link to Hinduism and kind of the ritual practice of their religion, which is why it is so potent. But nonetheless, it's a very strange thing to want to kind of fake and forge.
It's fascinating. I've got a lot to say about that, actually. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we'll do that next.
Episode 21.
21, the cusp.
How many subscribers?
The cusp number. We're touching on spirituality. Fucking
a handful. Our view count's going down though. It's going down massively. I think it's because YouTube's, all the key words we keep mentioning. We mention the Jews. We mention COVID. We talk about all this stuff that allowed to be spoken about. Of course, we're very objective. We talk about Christians and Muslims too. We talk about everyone, but obviously certain words are capped under the algorithm. But nonetheless, we will try to introduce the past life regression series because I'm sure it's going to take more than one episode.
Yeah, probably. Definitely more.
Right. Well, I will touch base with you, James.
All right, then. Speak to you soon.
Before the internet cuts out.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, people. Adios.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.